to Conversations with the Candidates. This is the second in a series of shows that we are doing with the candidates for North Adams City Council for election 2023. My name is Tammy Daniels, and I'm the editor of iBerkshires.com, and we are here in the Northern Berkshire Community Television studios. With me in this show, I have incumbents Wayne Wilkinson and Ashley Shade. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
I'm going to give you both a little time to reintroduce yourselves to the voters, and I'm going to let Ashley go first.
Sure, thank you. My name is Ashley Shade. I grew up here in North Adams, and I am just now completing my first term as a city councilor. I've learned a lot in this past term, and it was a great experience to learn how the council works, because so many people don't understand what the responsibility of the council is until they're in those shoes and actually doing the work that the council does. Now that I understand how it works and how committees work, I look forward to continuing that work and continuing to work towards making a difference in our community. Thank you.
And Wayne?
My name is Wayne Wilkinson. I've been in North Adams approximately 45 years now. I came here more years than I want to think about. Right out of college, my first job was in North Adams from college, and have been here ever since. North Adams has been very, very good to me over the years. I brought my family up here. Kids outgrown, gone, but now they're bringing back the grandchildren, so I couldn't be happier. So I've enjoyed my time on the council so far, finishing up my third term. Presently residing or the chairman of the General Government Committee, which can be very challenging and taxing, but Councilor Shade is on that same committee, and she helps me out enormously. So I'd like to go one more time.
Speaking of the General Government Committee, it's been very interesting watching both of you on the committee. You both have very strong opinions on how things should be, and you are both want things to be just so. So I found it to be a learning experience myself, listening to you.
We tackled some tough problems. Short-term rentals certainly was one of them. I believe the building inspector, Bill Moranti, was keeping track, and we actually had 30 meetings over the last 2 years on short-term rentals, and finally got a ordinance passed that actually our city solicitor has told us that should be emulated by other towns, because it took a long time, but we got it right.
Yeah, that was a big one.
That was a big one
to get through. Yeah. So what have you talked a little bit about what you learned, Ashley, over this is going to be you're running for your second term. So in the last 2 years, what has struck you the most?
I would say that I going in, I didn't understand the way that the committees worked. So learning how the committees worked and operated and how they went through their process and making changes and doing that is a really important step. And I would encourage people to come to committee meetings, because a lot of the questions people end up having, those are answered in those committee meetings. That's where the debate happens. That's where we actually look at detailed information, debate back and forth, and try to come up with the compromises to make the legislation or the ordinance or whatever it is we're working on to make it work. So I encourage people to come to those committee meetings. They're so important, and that's where you learn how everything works and what people feel about those things and what proposed solutions they have to make them the best that they can be.
And what committee would you like to be on in the next term?
So this past term, I have served as the co-chair of the Idea Commission, along with being on general government and being on community development. Not a lot has come through community development. We haven't met very often. General government is a committee I'd love to continue serving on. I believe there's a lot more ordinances that we have on the books that need to be updated and changed, and that's something I'm really passionate about doing and making that an easier process. And some of the things on the books are very old and they're very hard to understand, and I'd like to update the language to make it easier for people. Another committee that I'd love to serve on is the Finance Committee.
Wayne, you've been on most of them at this point.
Most of
Is there
them at
one
this
that you
point.
haven't been on?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Public safety, maybe. I
Yeah.
don't remember meeting on that one, but I've made the round, certainly. Some I've enjoyed more than others, but,
What would you like to be on this next term?
well, first of all, we have to assume we're going to get reelected.
Yes.
I mean, okay, we got to do that. If I were fortunate enough to be reelected, then I've certainly enjoyed general government. That seems to be the real throb of the council. Every time somebody, it has to do with any change in ordinance, has any change. I did 2 years or 2 terms on finance, a lot of meetings. I didn't enjoy that one as much as general government, but it depends on who the president is. The president will pick what committees that we are going to be on, and I'll be happy to serve on any of them, you know. And to just follow up on Ashley's statement, people don't really understand, the public doesn't, I don't think, of what committees do. That everybody says, oh yeah, you know, I watched the meetings and they all say yes. They all say yes, a bunch of yes people, which is really not the case. All that's worked out, the no's, and there are a lot of them. The no's all happen in committee, and we finally come to a meeting of the minds. So when we get to council floor, it's yes, yes, yes. But there's a lot more work than just showing up every 2 weeks and coming to council meetings.
Yeah, I know that, and I don't know, maybe Ashley can speak to this too. I know new counselors, I've watched them come in, I've always said, I feel bad, because I've seen new counselors and they have all these plans they want to do, and then they find out it takes 18 months to change 2 words in an ordinance. So
Unfortunately, true sometimes.
sometimes that happens, so it's not easy to just come in and say, I'm going to change this or that. There's a lot of work involved, and I've watched the back and forth. I mean, the taxi ordinance that they're going through right now.
Right now, yeah. It's all,
Yeah.
you're changing city ordinances, which are law.
Yeah.
So you want to take the time to do the job right, so somebody down the road doesn't sue the city because they did it wrong. And unfortunately, you know, that's happened not so much in North Adams, but many other places. People said, no, you couldn't do that, you all passed it, but it gets sued. And sometimes cities settle, so they end up losing a lawsuit that they probably shouldn't have if it was never instituted originally.
So what would you like to see the council tackle in the next 2 years?
You want me to go first on that one, or you want to go for it?
Either one of you.
Western Gateway Heritage State
Okay, Park, okay.
This has been a thorn in my side. I've talked to the mayor about it. She sidestepped me probably for the last 4 years on it. That park could be a real attribute to the city. And I'm not just blaming Mayor Maxey, because the last 3 mayors closed a blind eye to it. In the meantime, it looks like, pardon me, crap.
Yeah.
And something needs to be done down there. We can't paint it. Come on. You know, I'll have dinner with my wife or an early dinner with my wife at, let's say, the Freight Yard Pub. And we watch people walk around, they get their mocha stickers, and they're walking into the park, and they said, you see the look on their face, and they just turn around and leave.
Yeah.
Now, there could be viable businesses in there. The city is totally, sorry if I'm taking too long, but you got me on my soapbox now. The city has taken way too long trying to figure out a deal with the Freight Yard Pub. There's been numerous attempts to do this. I actually tried to help out a little bit, because again, I have a little, I don't know, I think something should really be done down there. And it hasn't been, so I plan on, if I get reelected, to jump back on the bandwagon, remind the mayor I'm calling on the door.
All right, how about you, Ashley?
I think that's definitely a project that needs to be a priority, along with the Mohawk Theater. Kind of this past term, we haven't heard anything about it, really. It was something that was being done in the previous administration, and then the request went out and nothing happened with it, and we haven't heard anything since. So it's definitely, those things I think almost go together, because they're part of developing our downtown and our community. But the biggest thing for me is updating our city ordinances. We had a presenter come in to talk about our E-code and our code online and talk about how we haven't had a recodification in 50 years, which means our code is very outdated. It doesn't match the correct sections of Mass General Law that it should. And everybody in the community needs to know what the laws and ordinances are. So they need to have access to that, and they need it to be as accurate as possible. So kickstarting that process and going through ordinances and updating language, making it easier for businesses to understand, making it easier for the citizens to understand is really important to me. And that's something I really want to push forward in the next term.
So what are you hearing from voters, from your constituents, Ashley?
I think different voters have different issues. I've heard from voters on short-term rentals. That is one that's going to continue to come up as we continue to finalize things there. I've heard from constituents on issues at traffic lights. I've heard on issues in regards to trash and rat infestations, which has been in the works for a while as well. We hear from a lot of people who talk about some of the blighted properties that they'd like to see rehabilitated or taken down. I think one of the biggest issues that's not talked about enough that I'm hearing more of is the housing shortage that we have in the city. That there aren't enough available rentals for the people who want to live here. And that's something that we need to start looking at as well.
How about you, Wayne?
Tough question. I'd have to agree with most of everything Ashley said. My office is downtown. I'm right on Church Street. I get a lot of walk-in traffic. It drives my not secretary, my assistant crazy up front. It's Wayne in. It's Wayne in. I got to talk to him right now. And I always make myself available, and if I'm there. But everybody has a wide variety. The taxes are too high. Well, we know everybody's going to complain about that. We don't. I mean, the last one, I believe, also Councilor Blackmere heard the same things about. I would like to cast my vote before 9 o'clock. So the council discussed that, and we changed it to 7, which that calmed the masses down a little bit. We'll see how many people actually show up between 7 and 9, but that's numbers we can count. So everybody has their own little thing, and your job as counselor is to listen, figure out a way that might help. I make a lot of phone calls to people in the background, and I'm sure Ashley does too. Say, what's going on with this? I got a complaint here. What's going on with this? I got a complaint here. And sometimes we work it out, and sometimes if people are asking for something we can't do. I usually have to say, if I can't help you, you're going to have to go see the mayor. Right. Nobody wants to do that, though.
Yeah, well, it's easier to call.
No, it's easier to walk in my front door.
Right. But I do. I think sometimes people don't realize that the council isn't the mayor. We have a strong mayor form of government. The council has authority over ordinances and certain things, but a lot of that stuff ends up on the mayor's desk because she's the manager of the city.
Yeah.
Technically, yeah.
It's kind of simple. She finds a way to spend money, and we appropriate it or not.
Right.
In fact, that's the basis of it. I shouldn't have said find a way to spend money. She projects a way. That's a bad word too. I can't think of the word I want. She wants to spend something on the budget, but we have to pass it.
Yeah. I think essentially the way I like to describe it to people is that when it comes to actually proposing something to spend money, it has to come from the mayor first. And then we approve it for the taxpayers, or we disapprove it and we say why. So a lot of the things that people want, they want roads fixed, they want sidewalks fixed, they want different projects done. That spending and that initial proposal, if it costs money, it's got to come from the mayor first. If it's a rule change, that can be done through the council first. So if there's an ordinance that you don't like, or there's an ordinance that is that doesn't make sense to you, come to a counselor, we can help you understand, we can help you explain it, and that would initiate through the council. But when it comes to spending money on projects, that starts with the mayor.
Yeah.
And I think both Ashley and myself have excellent rapport with the mayor. We've certainly gotten along with her since she's had her tenure in office. We certainly don't agree with her on everything, and she knows what our hot buttons are or not, and we know what hers are. But she's always been very approachable. We have our cell numbers, and neither one of us, and I'm sure Ashley's the same, are afraid to use it if we need to.
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much that everybody has to agree, it's that everybody has to work together.
That's it.
Correct.
Right, yeah.
And for the most part, I think all the counselors in this past term have tried to work together. We had
Yeah.
some that didn't, and it was called a toxic environment, but that's really not the case. We had two counselors that just didn't want to work with everybody else. Problem took care of itself.
Yeah, it does seem that like this past term has been better than the term before, in terms of just everybody being able to work with each other, so.
I might disagree with that.
Well, apparently I'm not in on all the background stuff, so.
Oh, there's no background.
From my experience, this being my first term, I felt that I could talk to any one of the counselors and have conversations. Whether it went anywhere or not, sometimes it did and sometimes it didn't. But I did feel that I could talk to all of my colleagues and be able to at least have conversations with them about different issues.
Because you, again, when you're trying to explain to people how the council works, you need, if you want to get something passed, you got to have 4 other people to agree with you.
Yeah.
And I've noticed there's been, a lot of times there's 7-2,
Isn't it 5?
5, yeah. So
Yeah.
if it's you, you need 4 other people, so you
Right.
get
Oh,
5.
yes.
Right, yeah. Yeah. You got to get those numbers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have to make your point.
Right.
And sometimes your point is made in committee
Yeah.
rather than on the council floor. I mean, just recently, I think it was at the last meeting, somebody tried to put something through. In my opinion, as a counselor, I didn't think it was ready to go. And there was a valiant attempt to do it, but we were taking too long in doing it. We sent it back to committee.
Right, yes. Yeah.
And it'll come back, and it'll go through.
Yeah.
That's where you work it out.
So Ashley, what would you have liked the council to do over the last 2 years that didn't, or was there something you disagreed with?
There were several things I've disagreed with and stated publicly. I think the one thing for me that, and I'm going to continue to do this every year during budget time, is when we don't allocate enough money for the maintenance of our buildings and we leave it in just our normal petty cash account and take it out when we need it. I think money should be allocated directly to maintenance and there should be a budget for that. And that money should only be used for that maintenance. And until that's larger, the first year I was on the council, it was $10,000. I voted against it. It's been brought up to 20, so we're getting more and more. I'd like to see a minimum of 100,000 because to maintain all the buildings that the city owns and of the properties, the reason why they keep decaying, the reason why we need a new police station, a new fire station, a new this, a new that, is because we're not investing properly in the upkeep of our buildings. And if we continue to do that, we're going to have to continue to replace them. And we don't have the funding to do that unless we borrow or tax. And I don't like doing either of those things.
We do have a lot of old buildings.
We do. And then
Even the new building, Conti, is over 100 years old.
yeah,
at this
and
point,
even
so-
Brayton was a new school in the 90s. I went to Brayton, Sullivan, and Greylock, actually. But Brayton was new in the 90s, and now we're about to think about closing it to rebuild Sullivan School. And this is a school that's only 30 years old.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be in the condition it's in only 30 years later. We didn't do a very good job at keeping up with that or planning that building. And those are things that they're working through now, and these are long-term problems that have long-term consequences.
What about you, Wayne?
I'd have to agree. There's no question about it. I also see $10,000 for maintenance of all public buildings as being absolutely absurd. And of course, they do that in order to pass a balanced budget and hope for the best. And maybe we'll allocate something down the road in order to do something. But it has to be constant maintenance, not just, oh, the wall fell down over there, we got to put it back up. What if we're looking at in a study now about how long it's been since we haven't really done any maintenance to the flood control chutes. We have panels that fall down. It costs $500,000 to replace one. But that's also one of the panels came down because nobody bothered to cut the bushes in back of the flood control chute. The roots got down the side, they became big trees. Next thing you know, it pops out a thing. However, how much would it have cost to have somebody with a chainsaw go through there once a year and cut all that brush out? So it's stuff like that that doesn't make sense to me.
What in particular would interest you? Actually, what I'm going to ask this, I had a sort of a discussion with somebody else on the council about that the council can't make the mayor do something, which is true, right?
Correct?
But I said you can push the mayor. You can't tell her what to do, but you can show that you are against or for something, and the council has done that on a number of occasions. So
We've turned her down.
yeah, you've turned her down on some things. So how do you see the push-pull with the mayor on getting things done? If she's proposing things you don't like, and you say, oh well, we can't do anything. Do you think there are ways to show that you would like her to move faster, or
I'll let you handle that one first.
Yeah, I think that that's the whole point of why we have a council and a mayor. The council there is to balance what the mayor does and to protect the taxpayers and the citizens of what's going on. I have had many disagreements with Mayor Maxey, but we come together, we talk them out, and we try to find common ground. And I think she's done a great job at doing that with all of us. I think she has made the effort to hear, I know when I have concerns and have gone to her, she's made the effort to hear me out, to listen and to propose new things. There are some things where she's been steadfast, mostly around the taxation issue and the budget. But there are things where, yes, I think it's a lot of give and take, and it's a working relationship. The council and the mayor need to work together and put the best interests of the people of North Adams at the forefront in what we're doing. And I think that's the most important thing, is that we're all trying, or we all should be trying, to do the best we can for the people of the city.
I would have to agree with that also. I mean, the mayor's only, I won't say blindsided, caught me off guard once with something that came across that I didn't have any idea was coming, and we had words about it, but normally she keeps the council in the loop, and I think the individual council members keep her in the loop on things that mean something special to them. And so there's a good communication back and forth, which is obviously, you don't want to set up, what's the word I'm looking for? It's escaping me. Bad things between, you just don't want to do that. I'll think of that word on my drive home.
Yeah, I know. I was trying to remember somebody's name last week. It did not come to me, and I just drove by him on the way here and went, oh, that's his name.
I know that feeling too well.
So we talk a little bit about the budget, because certainly Ashley brought that up. There's always chatter on Facebook. I don't know why I check it, but I always check Facebook to see what people are talking about. And there was a lot of pushback over last year with the shift differential on the tax rate, with the council coming up with this compromise because they didn't want to go backwards. They felt like they were going backward with a proposal that the mayor had put forward. And so there's a lot of people out there going, he raised our taxes. So how do you feel going into the next tax classification, which will be within the next month, on keeping the shift where it is, or putting more pressure on the commercial?
Well, I think we're at a point here where most people don't realize it, and I do know and I appreciate the cost of living has gone up significantly. But what people don't understand is that the commercial rate is significantly higher than the residential rate. What we need to solve the problem and to lower taxes is more people. The larger the tax base, the less you have to pay. We need more people here in North Adams. We need more people to live here. We need more people to tax. The shift has been used for a long time. but in our community, we're one of the highest commercial tax rates in the entire Commonwealth. And because of that, it makes it harder for businesses to run. If we don't have a lot of good businesses, we don't have a lot of good careers, we don't have a lot of good jobs, and then people end up working at lower wage jobs, multiple jobs, just to pay rent, just to afford things. We need to have a balance in our commercial rate so that we can bring careers here, jobs that actually pay a great wage and have great benefits and make you want to stay. But in order to do that, we got to find a better balance. The shift, to me, is not the way to do that. I feel like we've shifted so far, and the mayor wanted to shift back to the maximum shift, and we said, no, let's meet in the middle, because it wasn't fair to put it all on one segment. It's a burden of the entire community of us coming together to support the community. So we all have to play a part. It's not businesses versus residential. It's all of us. And most of our business owners live in North Adams too. They are residents. So it's really important to find that balance and make sure that when it comes to taxing, that there's a balance there, and that everybody is equitably paying into that system and into the city, and it's not just shifted onto one group or another. And it should never be about one group or another. It should always be about the entire city coming together.
Wayne?
Well, I think first of all, you have to understand what the shift is. We've mentioned residential, we mentioned commercial. North Adams has what's called a dual tax rate. Commercial properties pay one tax, and residential properties pay another. Ashley already mentioned that the commercial has, actually it's the second largest commercial rate. There's a long story that we can't do here because I don't have enough time, of how the shift originally started. That happened a long time ago. And so the commercial people on that side said, hey, we're paying too much, we're going to move out of the city. What we want to do is bring in the commercial in. Ashley is right. Another way is to bring in more residential. But as we mentioned earlier, in this program, there is a major problem with housing in North Adams, mostly because of short-term rentals. All the houses that would have gone, or that are going to first-time home buyers, those are the young couples that you want to keep in town. They're all Airbnbs now. I have a friend whose daughter was looking for her first home, couldn't find anything that she could afford. I mean, they usually used to go for the 180 to 220 houses. They don't exist anymore unless you're looking at foreclosures someplace. I'll get back to the shift though, in any event. So commercial is saying, wait a minute, we're already paying our fair share. And residential says, yeah, but we want a lower tax rate. So you got two different people battling it out. The council, at least a couple of years that I've been here, has been trying to shift away just a little bit. I mean, we're talking less than 1% from residential to commercial, to give commercial a break. And unfortunately, the mayor saw a wonderful opportunity to, we're going to really drop that residential rate. Well, didn't realize when she was proposing that it was also increasing the business rate. And, people know that I own a business here in town, and some of my friends are other business people in town. And they were infumed. It was absolutely, and I heard it, believe me, I heard about it. And I find glad that the council made a compromise, and what will happen next time is, I don't know Ashley's position on this. My position is, we're not going back. Either keep it the same for now, or keep on the road of trying to help the commercial person a little bit. And I'm not just saying that because I own commercial property. It's just a matter of, it's true. There are people that have businesses that have, and I can think 3 off the top of my head, who have left North Adams. They get tired of paying $27.80 per thousand.
And also, they're not they're not just paying in terms of, if they own their building, they're paying on their building. But even if they don't own their building, they're paying rent, and the person who owns their building is paying that commercial rate. And they're also paying on, and I think a lot of people don't understand that, they're also paying on the inventory and everything within their shops.
Yeah.
Yes, that's a different
And
tax.
Right,
Yeah.
that personal property,
Personal property
personal property
tax,
tax. And I don't think people realize that they're not just paying on like land or property, they're also paying on whatever is inside, so.
Well, you're in an apartment building, which is not really commercial unless it goes over 4 units. But if you're living there and your landlord's taxes go up, guess what? He's not swallowing it. Your rent's going up as soon as your lease is up. So little things like that can affect everybody.
So really quickly though, I want to talk, because you both, mentioned the housing crisis. I mean, we're in a housing crisis all over the nation. The short-term rental, actually, I saw those regulations as possibly being sort of a limitation on people, sort of a little bit of a break by saying you're going to have to register, you're going to have to be inspected, you're going to have to pay a fee, so a little more work to actually have a short-term rental. But outside of that, how does the council address something like this? What can the council do to support the mayor's initiatives or through ordinance to?
It's a tough question. Off the top of my head, unless all of a sudden, boom, somebody starts building a lot of new construction and creating affordable housing for young people. But let's face it, we have too many old vacant buildings that half of them need to be torn down. Banks, and this is one of my big pet peeves, banks foreclose on them. They just sit on them. They do nothing. The city can't do anything about it. We can take them for back taxes, but what's that going to do? We can tear them down at about $75,000 a house and some more if there's asbestos. And that doesn't do anything for the city except spend our money because they're never going to get it back. So I thought about this a lot, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really have a right up front answer to say, this is going to solve the problem. We'll have to work something out. It's going to take time.
Ashley, really quick, and then you can go right into your vote for me if you want
definitely. So housing is such a complicated issue because it involves so many things. It involves a state level. When we're talking about affordable housing, it also involves a federal level to that. There's so many rules and regulations. I think the one thing that we can do as the council is support and encourage developers who want to build new housing, especially affordable housing, and try to make it as easy as possible for them to do that in North Adams. But other than that, those initiatives and programs are really going to come out of the mayor's office or come directly from developers. So if you're a developer out there and you want to make new housing in the area, we want you here, we want you to do it, and we want to work with you to help you do that because we want more housing here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. It was a great conversation, and I'll let you wrap it up. Who wants to go first for a final?
Doesn't matter. I will, I guess.
Wayne.
It's easy to say, vote for me, but that's not what I'm saying. Both of, especially Ashley and myself, have been on the council before. It comes down to if you thought we did a good job, and we both admit that we want to go back to council, then we would like your vote if you thought we did a good job. If you think we didn't do a job, don't vote for me, because I'm only going to make you unhappy the next time.
Ashley?
Yeah, honestly, the past term, it's truly been an honor to serve the community and be in a position to represent people in my community who don't typically get a voice at the table. I feel like I've been able to learn a lot in my first term, and I would love to have the opportunity to continue to serve the people of North Adams because that's what it's really all about. So I'd like to earn your vote and continue to serve you and continue the work that we're doing to make North Adams a better place for all of us. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Thank you for being with us in this show.
Our pleasure.
And a reminder, we want to thank Northern Berkshire Community Television for hosting us. The election is Tuesday, November 7th. Polls will open at 7 a.m. at St. Elizabeth's Parish Center. There are 11 names on the ballot for council. You can pick up to 9 to determine who will be the city council beginning on January 1st. And we'll see you the next time.